We're going to read this morning from Psalm 8. I think I'll hold it up because it might be easier. O Lord, our Lord, your greatness is seen throughout all the earth. Your praise reaches up into the heavens. It is sung by children and babies. You are safe and secure from all your enemies. You stop anyone who opposes you. When I look up to the sky, which you have made, at the moon and the stars, which are set in their places, what are human beings that you think of them? Mere mortals that you care for them. You have made them inferior only to yourself. You crowned them with glory and honour. You appointed them rulers over everything you made. You placed them over all creation, sheep and cattle and wild animals too. The birds, the fish, and the creatures of the sea. O Lord, our Lord, your greatness is seen in all the earth.
I always have loved Psalm 8 because for the psalmist, the evidence of creativity indicates to him a creator. So the writer has gone out on a cold, clear night perhaps and looked up at the sky, and everything around him is saturated in wonder, the natural world, the universe. But because he sees such wonder in creation, he turns in wonder to the Creator. And he recalls the animals and the birds and the fish and the people when he puts down into the words of a song how much he marvels at the power of God seen through what he has made. And so for the psalmist, there is a clear line drawn between creation and the Creator. But for many people today, that line has been broken. They no longer see creation and see a creator. They just see the natural world. They don't see the artist behind the artistry. And there was a time when I wondered if that was actually the right position to have. Maybe these views are correct, that the universe just happened. Maybe the appearance of design does not point to a designer. Maybe the songwriter got it wrong and stuff just happened. And it was a big enough and disturbing enough idea for me, a traumatic enough question for me to ask, that it was one that started me on a journey of questioning and researching what science could tell me about the natural universe. Really asking the question, was my faith in God reasonable or was it unreasonable? In December 1990, NASA's Galileo spaceship was due to slingshot around the Earth on its way to Jupiter. And an astronomer by the name of Carl Sagan called up NASA with a crazy idea. As it was slingshotting around the Earth, he said, why don't we point the camera back onto the Earth rather than back out into space? And so he did that. And he later wrote the findings up in a paper that was called A Search for Life on Earth from the Galileo spacecraft. And the purpose was to provide a kind of baseline to put forward the case. Imagine that we were seeing another planet out in space from the Galileo spacecraft. What signs of life could we reasonably expect to find from this piece of machinery? And he wrote this up in a paper, The Search for Life on Planet Earth. And sure enough, Galileo did pick up evidence for life on planet Earth. The evidence of life indicated the presence of life. And so I guess we ask the same question: is there evidence for a creator that may indicate the presence of a creator? And the research that I went through, and this is all really my findings over some years going through books, is a jaw-dropping affirmative yes. There is astounding evidence for a creator from the creation that we see around us. Fred Hoyle was one of the most well-known astronomers in the last century. He was an atheist. And at the time he was an atheist, he said these words: "A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics, as well as chemistry and biology, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature." This from a non-Christian atheist. Fred Hoyle tried to get around the implications of this later on in his career. He tried to not go to the God idea, with not great success, but I don't really even know if he came to faith, this man, but it was remarkable to me. It had more of an impact that an atheist would say these kind of words. And he's just one of many scientists who have been amazed at the way our universe seems to just fit together to support life, even though it didn't have to. The universe seems fine-tuned for life, even though it didn't necessarily need to be. Now, I don't want to blind you with science this morning. Today is going to be a science, sorry. I'm not expecting you to understand a lot of this stuff, because most of it's not my field either. But there's some amazing stuff out there that indicate the line between creation and a creator. I personally am a scientist from training, and I know that many Christians don't hold to the idea of a Big Bang. I have no problems personally in reconciling the idea of a Big Bang with the Genesis account of creation. And for thousands of years, the Big Bang as an idea would have been preposterous. For thousands of years, people, even since the Greeks, believed the universe had always existed. It had never been a time when it was not there, which was in opposition to what the Bible said about a creation point for our universe, when God said, "Let there be." In 1915, Einstein's general theory of relativity predicted, though, an idea of a universe that had a starting point. It was mind-blowing. The universe actually started. And that was a revelation in the scientific world that suddenly aligned people again with the idea that God created in a moment of time. This theory was later confirmed by an astronomer called Edwin Hubble, of the telescope fame in the 1920s, who analyzed light from distant stars and discovered that everything in the universe is moving away from each other. So the picture was of an explosion of things being pushed out by a great force, things traveling away from each other. And the idea was, if you could capture that on a movie, video it, and then play it in reverse, you would have all these things coming back together, closer and closer, coalescing, getting smaller and smaller. And that was the idea of what this Big Bang thing was. A point of infinite mass, of infinite energy exploding. And scientists have discovered some amazing things about the Big Bang. Within the tiniest split second after the Big Bang, the temperature hit, they reckon, around about 100,000 million degrees Celsius. In 3 minutes after the Big Bang, 98% of all matter that there is or ever will be was produced. We have a universe. There have been a creation of huge amounts of light. Let there be light. Scientists even now can hear the background sound of the initial creation event. God spoke. But it wasn't a chaotic thing. It wasn't a total force of chaos. The most amazing thing is that science is now showing us that it was incredibly precise. It appears to have been fine-tuned to a mind-blowing extent that defies comprehension. If you imagine an explosion again, if it is too big, if the velocity is too great, then things will just fly off. They won't have the chance to coalesce to form planets and solar systems. But if it's too weak, that initial explosion, it'll just get sucked back in by gravity into a burning, chaotic mass again. There's a fine point in between those two things. And the most accepted number these days of the preciseness of that point is that accuracy had to be set to 1 part in 10 to the power of 90. Other calculations say 1 part to 10 to the power of 123. That is an enormous number. There are only 1 to the 10 to the power of 80 particles in the whole universe. If it was a smidgen either way of that degree of sensitivity, we would not have a life-sustaining universe. Someone has said, try and get their minds around this. To fine-tune this would be like blindfolding yourself, going out into the universe and looking for 1 elementary particle in all of the universe. But they're not just 1 universe, in 10 billion universes, finding 1 particle. To put it maybe more down to earth kind of a picture. Imagine I went somewhere in the world on a plane with a spray can of gold paint. And I went to a beach and I painted 1 grain of sand gold. And I came back to you and said, you've got to find that 1 grain of sand, not just on Piha, not just on Muriwai. On every beach in the whole planet, there is 1 grain of sand. I want you to go and find it. The chances of you finding that grain of sand is the chance that this event could give rise to a life-sustaining universe. Alan Rick Sandage, one of the greatest observational cosmologists in the world, said at a conference in 1985, the Big Bang was a supernatural event that cannot be explained within the realm of physics that we know it. So the initial settings of the universe, mind-blowingly precise. But also beyond that, the parameters of the universe that we live in today are incomprehensibly fine-tuned for life. And we're getting more and more information on all the dials of forces and constants that there are in the natural order that have to be precisely set. There are 4 very basic, really, forces in nature, which is the gravitational force, the weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, and the strong nuclear force. Don't worry about all that stuff. There's 4 essential forces in nature that describe every kind of interaction there is in the material world. And these 2 are so precisely tuned that if they were moved a smidge, this way or this way, life would not be possible. Let's just take one of them, for example, the power of gravity. Imagine that I ask you to get a big rope across this stage. And I've got to mark a pen and mark the rope into, we'll call it inches because that's where the illustration comes from. Inch blocks all the way up, all along the rope. And I said, I want you to bet your life that the particular inch block that I'm choosing in my head is the one that you're going to choose. Right? There must be, I don't know, 400 or 500 of those inch blocks all the way along that rope. Would you bet your life that the one that I chose in my mind was the one that you would choose? Imagine that rope doesn't just go along our church. Imagine it goes all the way down south to Hamilton. What would be the chances then that you would choose the one that I chose? Would you bet your life on that? Imagine that it didn't go just to Hamilton, it went right the way down to Invercargill. Would you bet your life on that? That this section of it would be the one that I chose. Imagine if it went right around the world. Imagine if it went right out to the moon. Imagine if it went right to the far reaches of the universe. There is a scale of forces from one end of that rope on one side of the universe right to the other side of the universe. A strength of different forces. If you chose to move the strength of gravity 1 inch along that rope that stretched all the way across the universe, moving it 1 inch, then life would not be possible. It is so finely tuned. I'll say that again. If there was a rope going right across the universe, from one end was one of the forces, the other force was gravity, the strength of forces, somewhere along that line, the other end is the greatest forces, somewhere along that line is the force of gravity. If you move that force by 1 inch along that rope, you would not be here. Incomprehensible fine-tuning. And it's not just gravity. That's the thing. Nuclear force in stars. Just a 1% change in the strong nuclear force in stars would have a 30 to 1,000-fold impact on the production of oxygen. We would not have a life able to be lived in, a world. The mass ratio of neutrons to protons, how they compare to each other, so finely tuned. Increase the mass of the neutron by 1 part in 700, nuclear fusion in stars would stop. There would be no light. There would be no particles to be the building blocks of life. The electromagnetic force, another one. If it was slightly stronger or weaker, life in the universe would be impossible. Another one, the electric charge of the electron. If that was changed slightly differently, stars would either be unable to burn hydrogen and helium, or else they would have exploded. The conversion rate of hydrogen into helium, again, it's to a precision, this rate, that is mind-blowing. Hydrogen converted into helium, it converts 7 1,000ths of its mass into energy. If this was changed to 6 1,000ths or 8 1,000ths, the universe would not exist. I'm not blinding you with science here, but I'm trying to get you to understand there are parameter after parameter after parameter. If you imagine a big machine with 30 dials on it, and each one of those having to be precise, that is what we are living in. A remarkable, remarkable place. Astronomy leads us to the conclusion. All right, go back a bit. Oh, way back, sorry about that. Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing and delicately balanced to provide exactly the conditions required to support life. In the absence of an absurdly improbable accident, the observations of modern science seem to suggest an underlying, one might say, supernatural plan. That's from Arno Penzias, a Nobel laureate. The specialness of Earth. I don't know if you grew up watching Star Wars. Anyone here a Star Wars fan? No one? Yeah, Star Wars, yeah. And you get these images of millions of planets and things with all capable of producing life. Science is saying now, no, it is not like that. Even though the universe is infinite, it is infinitely improbable. That there is just unique factors available to make life possible. Our place on Earth is not just a normal place. It is incredible in all sorts of ways. We are incredibly fortunate in being where we are in the galaxy. The inner parts of the galaxy are dangerous because of radiation. The outer parts don't have enough building blocks to form life. There is a small Goldilocks region, not too hot, not too cold, right? Just right, where life is possible. We're in that place. The safe zone. Our solar system. We are incredibly fortunate in our solar system. If the distance of the Earth from the sun moved by 5% either way, animal life on Earth would be impossible. Too close, the water will evaporate off. If you get too far out, it gets too cold. We are in a 5% margin of error. The huge gravitational pull of Jupiter protects us from meteors. Mars protects us from asteroids. We are incredibly shielded, fortunately, by our solar system. We're also very fortunate in our sun. Incredibly fortunate. It is highly stable. Its light output only varies by 0.1% over a full sunspot cycle, which is every 11 years, which prevents climate change swings. It's the right color. The balance of red and blue light impacts the oxygen buildup that we have. Its emission spectrum is exactly in the right place to allow chemical reactions to take place. Water is 10 million times more opaque to ultraviolet and infrared radiation. Because our eyes are mainly made up of water, we would not be able to see through them if the radiation from the sun isn't exactly the place that it's in. It's stable, emits the right color. Its orbit in the galaxy is very nearly circular, keeps us away from the danger zones in the space there. The moon, incredibly fortunate we have our moon. The moon stabilizes the tilt of the Earth's axis at 23.5 degrees. This was discovered in 1993 as being critical for our planet. Its tilt is responsible for our seasons. If it were not there, our tilt would swing wildly, resulting in major temperature swings, climatic changes. It's just the right size. If it were bigger, tides would be too high, the Earth's orbit would be slowed down too much. The lunar tides keep ocean circulation going, which warms the colder parts of the Earth as well. So our moon is just right for us. And the Earth itself, of course, as well. Incredible place. The liquid iron around the Earth's core moves in a big rotation to produce a magnetic field. What does the magnetic field do? Keeps us from being blasted by the sun's radiation. If that were not there, we would be fried. Life could not exist if our planet did not have this liquid magnetic rotating core all the time. Just so happens we have one, which keeps all the radiation nasties away. Amazing. It preserves our atmosphere, protects us from cosmic radiation. So we are in a place that is amazing, unique, and the statistics are showing that even though, yes, the universe is infinitely big, well, it's not infinite, it's growing actually, there are the chances of having so many of these factors right in just the right place, in just the right quantities, in just the right settings to produce life or allow life to exist are vanishingly small. Vanishingly small. Now, one can look at that data, which is just data, and go, well, we're alive because those things suddenly happened. You know, if they hadn't been there, we wouldn't be here to speak about it today. But in my view, you need a blinder faith to believe it all just happened than to believe in an infinite creator. Both positions take faith, right? Those who do not believe in God and a creator God require vastly more faith of a blind quality than those who say the fine-tuning is evidence that this was done on purpose. Just want, after the science deluge, sorry about that, just to show you, to finish the service today, a clip of some of the beauty of our world. And there's a song behind it, which is a song that is called The Heavens Declare the Glory of God.